recorded.
Okay.
Yeah, let me share the screen with you. Okay, let's see here. So this one is for chapter 1. Let's see here. Let's see here. William, you know the background of this? Remember the background of this conversation?
Yeah, I've read the part basically before the text started. So I kind of refreshed myself on that. I know the kind of like context of who King Linda was. I don't know why how the conversation began exactly though.
Yeah. So he the quick king, right? He's the one that print the Buddha image on the corn.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, let's see here. How about this? If we go to the format, can we read? Right. Because this is the conversation. It's okay, Tammy. Can you read?
Sure.
Yeah, please.
King Melinda went up to Nagasena, exchanged polite and friendly greetings, and then took his seat respectfully to one side. Then Melinda began by asking, "How is your reverence known, and what, sir, is your name?" "Oh, King, I am known as Nagasena, but that is only a distinction in common use, for no permanent individual can be found." Then Melinda called upon the Bactrian Greeks and the monks to bear witness. This Nagasena says that no permanent individual is implied in his name. Is it possible to approve of that? Then he turned to Nasinga and said, "If most venerable Nasinga, that is true, who is it who gives you robes, food, and shelter? Who lives the righteous life, or again, who kills living beings, steals, commits adultery, tells lies, or takes strong drink? If what you say is true, then there is neither merit nor demerit, nor is there any doer of good or evil deeds, and no result of karma. If, venerable sir, a man were to kill you, there would be no murderer, and it follows that there are no masters or teachers in your order. You say that you are called Nasinga. Now, what is that Nasinga? Is it the hair?"
You got that?
Yes. So he's just asking, the king's asking for him to explain if you're saying there's no permanent self, there's no self, then what is everything? Who's everybody else that's not you? And then he's going to go on and ask, what are you? By asking about his different parts that make up himself.
It's so practical question, right? So
Sure.
for the monk, he said no impermanent individual can be found. So who is that? Who give you the food, and who if you commit crimes, or if you help others, so who are you then, right? And even he asked Train Creek, right, and the monk to be witness to, right? Okay. And Stephen, you like to read next, please?
Okay, there it is. I don't say that, great king. Is it then the nails, teeth, skin, or other parts of the body? Certainly not. Or is it the body, or feelings, or perceptions, or formations, or consciousness? Is it all of these combined? Or is it something outside of them that is Nagasena? Still, Nagasena answered, it is none of these. Then, ask as I may, I can discover no Nagasena. Nagasena is an empty sound. Who is it we see before us? It is a falsehood that your reverence has spoken. You, sir, have been reared in great luxury as becomes your noble birth. How did you come here? By foot or in a chariot? In a chariot, venerable sir. Then explain, sir, what that is. Is it the axle, or the wheels, or the chassis, or reins, or yoke that is the chariot? Is it all these combined, or is it something apart from them? It is none of these things, venerable sir. Then, sir, this chariot is an empty sound. You spoke falsely when you said that you came here in a chariot. You are a great king of India. Who are you afraid of that you don't speak the truth? Then he called upon the Bactrian Greeks and the monks to bear witness. This King Melinda has said that he came here in a chariot, but when asked what it is, he is unable to show it. Is it possible to approve of that?
You understand now? You understand the argument now?
Yes.
What does it mean then?
So basically, he just coming back, I guess, wanting the king to understand that most of the stuff that he's coming in, it's like, how can he prove that it's a physical option or something like that? And if he can't explain that, then how did he know he came in it? So just basically back to asking him the same question as the king asked him earlier, but just in a different example. So.
So the king asked him, "Who are you?" Right, and he say, "And nothing." Right. So the king asked other monks to be the witness, and later on he turned around. He say, "What? How could you come here?" He come here with chariot, right?
Right.
Chariot. He asked whether axle, wheel, and none of that. So that's why this is that is said too. Yeah. Mr. Kirsten, you want to lead this?
Let's see.
Then,
sir, this chariot is an empty sound.
oh no, right here. Then.
Then the 500 Bactrian Greeks shouted their approval and said to the king, "Get out of that if you can." Venerable sir, I have spoken the truth. It is because it has all these parts that comes under the term chariot. Very good, sir. Your Majesty has rightly grasped the meaning. Even so, it is because of the 32 kinds of organic matter in the human body and 5 aggregates of being that I am under the name Nagasena. As it was said by Sister Vajira in the presence of the Blessed One, just as it is by the existence of various parts that the word chariot is used, just so it is that when the aggregates of being are all there are, we talk of a being. Most wonderful Nagasena, most extraordinary that you have solved this puzzle, difficult though as it was. Oh, I just lost my spot. Can you point to it?
Yes.
Where is it?
Oh, right here.
You moved it and I lost my spot.
If,
Okay, if the Buddha himself were here, he would approve of your reply.
that's okay. That's enough. That is enough. Yeah. And can you summarize what it's about?
Oh, so this is where Nagasena and explains the doctrine of no self. This is the simile in the doctrine of no self.
Yeah. So he, when the king asked him, "Who are you?" and he say he's nothing, right?
Well, he says it's my hair. Is it tries to lead him to is it the hair? Is it all these different things that's me? You know, tries to lead him to the conclusion that there is no one thing that's him.
Yeah. And he turned around to ask the king, the chariot, right?
Mhm.
And it's so practical for the common people, especially in modern age here. It's easy for us to recognize us in our daily life, but not this pure tough, right? We understand the drill, but not easy to recognize. Is that right?
No.
Why is that? We understand that, right? We are not our hair. We are not our skin and so forth. And the car is not the cars, but we still attached to the cars. We still attached to them. What happened then? In practical sense, what do you think?
Attachment.
Oh, that the king accuses him of lying. Is that what you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about we understand, right? How Senna said, right? We are not our skin, we're not our hair.
Oh,
so
how he
forth.
leads him to the conclusion of the doctrine of no self.
Especially with this physical body. In our modern age, if we approach to someone else on the street, say, oh, you are not your hair, you are not your clothes, and so forth, what happened then? They say we may be crazy, right? Right? So it's not easy, right? It's not easy for people in modern age to accept that reality, right?
Well, I've tried to lead people to see what it means by no self, because I get asked. Actually, I got asked this question on Sunday. Somebody wanting to learn to meditate. He said, "Well, who is it that decides to meditate if there's no self?" So I've tried to lead people to that conclusion. I'm not sure how great I am at getting it across, but
Yeah. William, it's not easy, right? It's not easy for the common people to understand. Even when we explain, even for us, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's got to be because of, attachments to desires generally, where a part of it. So like hair, like seeing the emptiness of hair, it's like, well, people respond to people differently based on how they look. So like, if I wanted to be a model, well, all right, it's the options are a little bit less diverse if you don't have hair, or just like physical appearance has implications in the world. So I think most people, when they begin to learn about no self, there may be still attached to certain outcomes in the world. And so this doctrine of no self, really, like if we fully understand it and apply it, it removes attachments to anything. Like anything material in the world at all is ultimately, there's no self to refer it back to. So ultimately its meaning is not what we thought it was. So I think that's what makes it so hard to see, is because someone has to kind of be willing to suspend all of their desires, all of their kind of hopes and dreams, and reassess their whole orientation in life in order to allow themselves to really get no self in a lived daily experience.
It's not easy. That's why the Buddha explained and encouraged to peel out layers by layers, right? The layers of the body, the layers of the feeling, the layers of the thinking, right? And even deep down the layer of consciousness. So again, without meditation, it's not easy to let go of them. Even we understand that logically, right? Yeah. Yeah, please, William, please to read this one.
Most wonderful, Nagasena, most extraordinary that you have solved this puzzle, difficult though it was. Okay, we already read that. King Milinda went up to Nagasena, exchanged polite and friendly greetings, and took his seat respectfully to one side. Then Milinda began by asking, "How many reigns do you have, Nagasena?" "7, Your Majesty." "How can you say it is your 7? Is it you who are 7, or the number that is 7? Then Nagasena said, your shadow is now on the ground. Are you the king, or is the shadow the king? I am the king, Nagasena, but the shadow comes into being because of me. Just so, O king, the number of years is 7. I am not 7, but it is because of me that the number 7 comes into being, and it is mine in the same sense as the shadow is yours. Most wonderful, Nagasena, and extraordinary. Well, has this puzzle been solved by you, difficult as it was?
Yeah, you can stop there. You know what's meant by number 7?
Yes, the number of years he had been a monk, like the number of rainy seasons he had seen.
Yeah, that's what it's about. So you understand the argument here?
Yes, that the king is saying, is this a true descriptor of who you are? And so Nagasena likened it to like a shadow. A shadow flows like from the physical body that we associate with the self, but it doesn't determine anything about the physical body. It's determined by it. So in this sense is the same thing with the years that Nagasena had lived as a monk, was that it's not like a real descriptor of himself, but it's like factually accurate about, how long, relatively speaking, he's been a monk.
I remember when I was little, when I look back to my shadow, I thought that someone followed me. Right? Yeah, again, yeah, because we're childish, so we don't recognize us. So here, even in Buddhist tradition, the Buddha say, well, watch out for your karma. Your karma for you as the shadow. And in this case, mentioned that. Yeah. Tammy, can you read that, please?
Then the king said, Honorable sir, will you discuss with me again? If your majesty will discuss as a scholar, yes, but if you will discuss as a king, no. How is it then that scholars discuss? When scholars discuss, there is a summing up and an unraveling. One or other is shown to be in error. He admits his mistake, yet he does not become angry. Then how is it that kings discuss? When a king discusses a matter and advances a point of view, if anyone differs from him on that point, he is apt to punish him. Very well, then it is as a scholar that I will discuss. Let your reverence talk without fear. It is well, your majesty. Nagasena, I will ask a question, said the king. Ask it, sir.
Okay. Yeah.
So this is just talking about, he wants to have a discussion, but he says, I'm only going to have a discussion with you if we can discuss it basically several, not where as a king where you would get angry if I don't agree with what you're saying, but if you want to discuss it, and then if you're wrong, accept that you're wrong and have a true discussion.
So again, with the scholar discussion, so whether the other party is wrong or right, we still have conversation, right? But if the king think that he's always right? So when someone point out he's wrong, he may punish him. Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
Did Menander, like just as a historical context, did Menander abdicate his throne to become a monk or to study Buddhism?
No. He was not the monk.
But he abdicated to study Buddhism, right?
Yeah, he has this monk.
He like gave up his being king to like historic, not King Melinda, which is the character, which is based on Menander. Am I right?
No. No. Melinda, he's a rich king. So he invite Nagasena come into his court, his palace, to have this conversation. So in the conversation, so Nagasena say that if you discuss with me as a scholar, yes, I can point out your mistake. But if you discuss with me as a position of a king, it's not easy, because when someone point out your mistake, you may punish me. You understand that? So that's why the king say, "Don't worry, I will discuss with you as a scholar." You understand now? So
Well, I understand that, but I'm wondering, like, historically though, didn't he actually, maybe I'll just look it
Yeah,
up.
I know what you're talking about. I just looked it up real quick.
Okay.
This is what I found. And this is the, I just did a quick Google search, and then this is the website. So do you understand what she was asking?
not really. Yeah, go ahead. If you understand, you can reply. Yeah, what is that?
Like how, you know, when it's in the Lotus Sutra, they'll talk about like how, you know, when that Buddha was still a king, he gave up his country, abandoned worldly glory, and his final incarnation left his family and attained the Buddha way. So she's wondering, like, did this king, King Melinda, end up giving up his throne in order to pursue practice?
Oh, well, okay. I don't know about that. Yeah, yeah. Okay, all right.
I
Yeah.
have a comment
Yes.
about that.
Yes.
I guess the other sense too, Chris, if you want to look at it, is not necessarily that he want to give up humanly possession like being royalty or anything, but maybe he just wanted the more of the story is basically he wanted to learn true Buddhism as to how to become a proper human being and
Right,
royal.
I'm asking about the historical context. I think the story was based on a real, or maybe I'm confused, on the real king,
Yes.
who was one of the first ones to give up his throne, or am I confused?
No, he is a historical king.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here, I don't know much whether he gave up his throne to follow Nagasena or not. I'm not sure, but he's the real one. He's historical figures. Yeah. So William, did you find anything news? Whether
So I put this in the chat. I don't know how legitimate this is, but I put a link there.
Yeah, I have this one here. Yeah, you see on the screen, right?
Oh yeah. What I looked up was I did control find, and I looked up the term abdicate. And then the second mentioning of abdicate was about King Melinda or Menander, depending on how.
So he gave up the throne.
It says Melinda was completely convinced by Nagasena about the merits of Buddhism, abdicated his kingdom to his son to become Nagasena's disciple, and achieved enlightenment.
Oh,
That's
okay. I didn't know that.
He was Arhat.
Yeah, I didn't know.
I'd never say it right. Arhat.
Yeah. Okay, good. That's nice then. Yeah. All right. Yes. And Stephen, can you witness, please?
Oh,
I have.
yeah. I have asked it, Your Reverence. Then I have answered. What have you answered? What have you asked? Thinking, this monk is a great scholar. He is quite able to discuss things with me, the king instructed his minister, Devanmatiya, to invite him to the palace with a large company of monks, and went away muttering, Nagasena, Nagasena. So Devamatiya, Anantakaya, and Mankura went to Nagasena's hermitage to accompany the monks to the palace. As they were walking along together, Anantakaya said to Nagasena, when your reference, I say, Nagasena, what is that, Nagasena? What do you think that Nagasena is? The soul, the inner breath, which comes and goes. But if that breath, having gone out, should not return, would that man still be alive? Certainly not. And when those trumpeters and the like have blown their trumpets, Does their breath return to them? No, Venerable Sir, it doesn't. Then why don't they die? I am not capable of arguing with you, sir. Pray tell me how it is.
That's okay. You can stop there.
Was a little bit harder for me to grasp at the beginning when I first read through this section here, but after rereading it, it's almost kind of like he's asking about permanence again.
With the breath.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, when we breathe in and out, yeah, we're still alive. But if we breathe in without exhalation, we're done. That's what about.
Sure. Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
and for his minister, he could not argue with Nagasena. That's what it's about. Yeah. Okay. Mr. Kison, you like to read, please? Oh, you just read. You just read. You read second one, second time or no?
No, I haven't.
Oh, please, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. There is no soul in the breath. These inhalations and exhalations are merely constituent powers of the bodily frame. Then the elder talked to him on the Abhidhamma, and Anatakaya was satisfied with his explanation. Then, after the monks had arrived at the palace and finished their meal, the king sat down on a low seat and asked, "What shall we discuss? Let our discussion be about the Dhamma."
Okay, yeah.
So the Abhidhamma is Buddhist psychology, and Anatakaya is the kaya on no self. And I guess, and then they had dinner. They decided what they were going to discuss and had dinner.
Okay. So he said, there is no soul in the breath, right? It's understandable, right? Explanation is just the power for us to live here, right? And down here, the king sat on the low seat. So he's so humble, right?
Respect.
To learn about Dharma. Yeah, please, William.
Then the king said, "What is the purpose, your reverence, of your going forth, and what is the final goal at which you aim?" "Our going forth is for the purpose that this suffering may be extinguished, and that no further suffering may arise. The complete extinction of grasping without remainder is our final goal." "Is it, venerable sir, for such noble reasons that everyone joins the order?" "No. Some enter to escape the tyranny of kings, some to be safe from robbers, some to escape from debt, and some perhaps to gain a livelihood. However, those who enter rightly do so for the complete extinction of grasping."
Okay, yeah, please.
So the king's questioning Nagasena about the purpose of becoming a monk, and he's using the term going forth. And Nagasena says that it's to, in this case, this would be the goal of the arhatship. So the Theravadan goal of nirvana, the cessation of all sufferings. And the king, probably feeling like, well, I don't think everybody enters for that reason. So he asks, well, does everyone? And Nagasena clarifies, saying, surely some don't, but those who do it correctly do. And I think there are even rules about some of these reasons, like there's a rule about not being able to become a monk to escape from debts. Like that was, I don't know when that rule was made, but I don't know if there are rules to prevent, other inappropriate ways of entering, but
Yeah, actually, uh, in the Sangha, we don't allow criminals, debtors. So basically, if they criminals and they have problems with the law, it's be troublesome, for the Sangha and even the debtor too. Yeah, but of course, many people, some people, especially in the poor country, they became monk without any kind of real intention. So this happened everywhere, right? So that's the reality there. Unless we have to go clearly why we want to become monks and nuns, it's easy for the practice, otherwise not easy. But you surprised, Tammy, to hear this?
No, not at all.
Really?
Because it happens in all faiths, not just
Everywhere, right?
yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, some have good intentions, some don't, right? Okay, yeah, please, Tammy, number 6, yeah.
The king said, "Is there anyone who is not reborn after death?" "Yes, there is. The one who has no defilements is not reborn after death. The one who has defilements is reborn. Will you be reborn? If I die with attachment in my mind, yes, but if not, no."
Okay, can you stop it this when the rest in? What do you think?
So he's stating that people without defilements will not be reborn, and even him himself possibly will be reborn. If he dies with attachments, then yes, he'll die with defilements, so he'll be reborn.
Yeah. Let's see here. Oh, okay. Here. Let me see here. Let's see here. I cannot send. Anyway, one doctor, what do you call, neurologist. So he scanned the brains of the people who passed away. Have you guys heard about that? William, you heard about that?
yes, we talked about something. Yeah, we talked about that before.
Yeah, and they want to know when is the exact times or appropriate times that disease person die completely, but not easy. Even they scan the brain. And anyway, so this one is so clear, right? So will you reborn? If I die with attachment in my mind, yes. If not, no. Is it understandable, Tammy?
Yes.
Why is that? Why? If we have any kind of attachment, we come back. Why is that?
Because you're still in ignorance, you're still having thoughts, so you'll be reborn again.
It's not
You
easy.
have your nature.
It's not easy. Well, I don't know whether I told you the story about a monk. There's 2 monks, right? They're brothers. Actually, they call Brahma brothers. This means they have the same teacher. So one monk took up to the mountain to do meditation, and other monks stay back to build the temple and receive or have disciple. So the monk who has the big temple, he like to actually he plants, sugar cane plant, sugar cane.
Sure.
You know that? Tammy, sugar cane?
Yes.
Okay. So one day somehow the young monk, the young monk who stay in the city to build a temple and have the student, that monk passed away. So his older brothers, I mean, Dharma brother, not actually biological brother, but they are brotherhood in the Dharma in this because they have the same teacher. So when the older brother, or Dharma brother, heard the news that his younger one just passed away, so he entered samadhi and observed to see where his younger brothers gone to. So he could not find. You heard about this story before? No, okay. So yeah, you heard about that, right? So he went down the mountain to visit the student. I mean that temple, and asked the student, his younger brothers, what happened? What did your master do when he's still alive? So they replied that our master like to take care of the sugar cane in the plant in the field. So this monk, he recognized, oh, okay, I would find my younger brother there. So he went there. He went to the sugarcane field and picked up the right one, and he saw a worms inside that sugarcane, and he decided the sutra and mantra to remind that worms, you were the monk before, because you attached to sugarcane, you stuck here. So get out.
And so he came back as a worm.
Yeah. Well, is it funny, right? What do you think? It's good.
I don't want to get attached to sugar.
The moment that we attach to certain things, we get stuck with that. Of course, later on, if we recognize, we can move on. But otherwise, after we pass away, according to Buddhist view, the soul, we can say the soul, the intimate beings, it is attached to anything, it gets stuck there. Yeah, so Tammy, is that incredible? What do you think?
Yeah, it seems like it seems pretty extreme.
It's strange and extreme. What do you think? Is it logical, or is it reasonable, or it may or may not? What do you think?
It's logical, but I hope it's not correct.
Actually, it's many similar story to that. Not only the monk, the lay people, whoever have some slight of attachment right after they pass away. They will get stuck to that field or that realm for a while. Like when we drive into downtown, we may get lost for a while, but later we find out our way to get back to our house.
Oh.
You understand that? They would not stay there forever because they're not that's not their karma, but because of the slightest attachment, they go there, but eventually will find their own way back home. You understand that? So, yeah, William, what do you think about this story? Is that logical or reasonable, or what do you think?
I definitely appreciate the sense that, like, oh gosh, I hope that's not exactly how it works, because you're someone who like went as far as becoming a monk. He builds a temple, and you're like, oh gosh, well, I didn't become a monk. I haven't built a temple. Like, do I kind of like chocolate? Like, am I gonna? But I think it makes sense as well. The other thing I think about is like the blessings from the different sutras. I guess it depends what how this monk practiced, but they would say things like, if you take delight in listening to the different sutras will say this, where there are these tremendous, amazing blessings. And it would seem like he would certainly be involved in some of that. So it's a little surprising that I wonder how much he was into sugar. Like, was he diabetic? Like, was he eating so much sugar like all the time, every day? Or did he just like putting sugar in his tea? Like, how attached was he? I kind of wonder.
Yeah, another story, I don't know, is just related to a layman. So one day the Buddha stopped by at the house, and one young man, he came out and offered Buddha food, and follow him with a dog. And so Buddha said, you need to take care of this dog well, because this dog was your father in the past life. So young man in shock. He gonna believe. And so Buddha say, okay, you don't believe me, that's fine, but go back to your house and check out the place where the dog lie down every day, and dig down from that spot. You see some boxes of gold there. And he did find out. And later on the Buddha explained that because your dad, when he was alive, he's so attached to his gold. That's why before he passed away, he dig the ground underneath of his bed to build all those boxes of gold. And so he's so attached that he came back as a dog to protect that. Again, what do you think, and Stephen? That reasonable to get back and to protect the gold?
Go, you didn't want to let it go.
Yeah, what do you think?
I somewhat kind of believe it, it's just one of those things that is unexplainable, but it's just one of those things to where that I somewhat truly believe in it because of everything that we're learning so far about Buddhism, about just learning how to properly guide your mind correctly, not to avoid attachment and all cravings and all that thing that basically tie us down, because we're trying to become impermanent and believe that everything around the world, everything from animal, trees, people from a different country, we're all interconnected. But if you're always craving and attaching to things, you're just stuck in that one little realm and you're going to come back and back. So in a sense, that's how I'm grasping it. And I somewhat believe in that. Although, each of us we're going to get to that point. Each one of us, we're going to know it later on. But the weirdest thing is that my only question is, let's just say if we're reborn, how do you know what your, other than, understanding what path you do, how rightful thinking that is, or how we are behaving or reacting as we're living, and then we pass and we come back. It's like, do you even remember, your previous life of how it is? Because the thing is, if you don't concentrate on practicing, going down the correct path, that cycle is just come back and back and back. It's kind of hard to get away from that, is what I'm trying to say. So
yeah, so that's why I used to ask the younger student that, do you believe in ghosts, especially the haunted house? Right? Have you ever tried to see whether there's some energy there? Again, there's some sort of attachment there. Some sort of ghosts, they are so attached to their house. They probably, that's why they could not go away. So Miss Kirsten, what do you think about those haunted houses?
Well, I mean, I'm fascinated with stories of haunted houses and stuff like that. I can't say that I'm necessarily a believer or whatever, but I'm certainly fascinated by the different theories of why certain energetic fields get stuck in certain places, or the way they manifest, I think is certainly I'm not sure that I totally buy into it because I think there's a lot of psychological components that happen. But I also know that, you know, energy can make a big imprint somewhere. So I don't really know if, yeah, I mean, it could very well be energy that's just not been able to move on.
I have something
Yes.
to add if you don't mind.
Yes, please.
When Kirsten said something about just energy, especially and all of that, this was years ago. I was still single at the same time, and we went back to Vietnam to visit. And there was this one place in Đà Lạt, which is north of Saigon. Hey, I'm sure you heard of this, Đà Lạt. Anyway, there's this one house that this family owned, this kind of like this a wooden table that you can spin, you know, during dinner, that was passed down from generation to generation. And we're just there to visit. And it's mainly everyone was just fascinated. That's all you want to visit was the table and the story behind the table. It's just, I don't know what type of wood it is, but it's very heavy. And all they did was they put it on top of a, you know, those milk carts and everything, which is plastic. And as the owner was explaining, the current owner that is, was explaining about the table, he was just talking, you know, and he said, you know, turn left. And all of a sudden you can see the table was, you know, gearing leftward rotation. And then let's go right. And the table was rotating to the right. And as he was explaining, I am not pushing the table. It is just going at his own free will. He just had his hand barely touching it. And then he went on and had a few of the participants who was there on the tour to try it. This was no relative, no, not even a friend of family. They're just tourists, and they try it. For some people, it worked, some it didn't. For me, for whatever reason, it did work for me. And he explained to where you don't even have to tell the table to turn, just think in your mind. And then I'm actually, here I am, okay, I wonder if the table can understand in English. So I'm actually thinking in English instead of Vietnamese. Turn, rotate 7 times. Okay, rotate it left 2 times. It literally exactly at the same spot where I stopped at each and every single time. Speed up, it went faster. Slow down, it went slow down. So I just wanted those things that, and of course, you know, as a engineering student, I like flip the table up, look for wires, look for magnet. And I was like, ask the owner, do you have a remote control? Do you have anything, a receiver thing? Nope, nothing around. But it's just one of those things there. Up until now, I still can't explain what is causing all that unexplained thing that could happen. So, but have you ever heard of such a thing, Tay?
Yeah, actually for the ghosts, they can read our mind. So anyways, it's understandable for me.
Yeah, that's the only thing I could think of, is there's no such thing as language like, okay, I'm speaking English, or I'm thinking in English, or I'm thinking in Vietnamese or Chinese. It doesn't matter. It's just your thought process. And then something is reading your mind and helping navigate all of that. So that's the only thing that I could think of. So
Good. Yeah. Wow, that's wonderful story. How about you, Tammy? What do you think about that story?
Yeah, just the same thing that you thought, that the ghosts are, you know, reading the mind. And that's something that my son, he used to always ask me, Mom, are ghosts for real? Are ghosts for real? And I always tell him, like, well, some people say yes because I didn't want to freak. He'd always be like upset or freaked out when he asked me. So I always tell him, you know, some people say yes and some people say no, just kind of like Santa Claus answer, you know. And then one day he came up to me and he asked, and he wasn't like upset or freaking out or anything. And so then I explained to him, I'm like, well, you know, there's 6 different realms. And so, you know, told him that the ghost realm. And so now he understands. But for sure, my 2 kids, like in the house, they'll be freaked out. And they'll be like, well, you know, I don't want to go in this room by myself. I'm freaked out. I think there's a ghost in here all the time. And so I just, you know, taught them a mantra. And I'm like, if you're, you know, just try to keep your mind calm. You know, don't get upset, don't get scared. And just, you know, so anytime I can tell them whenever they're upset because they'll start trying to say the mantra. I'm like, okay. Or they say, Mama, come say it.
Mhm. Let me tell you one more time the story. I don't know whether I told you yet. So there were families who live in Atlanta. So their fathers passed away. So I went out there to do the funeral service for him, plus with other monks too. So after the 49 days, they came up here. They came to Corden, Indiana, our temple in Corden. And so when they first got to the gate, they saw a big butterfly that flew around them at that gate. And that butterfly uh, flew with them when they rode the car uphill to the temple. William, what do you think? I told you this story, right, William?
No.
What do you think? Is that coincidence?
Well, it's a pretty long ride up to the temple. So that's kind of unusual for a butterfly to follow the car for that long.
It does.
You wouldn't expect it to, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do you think about that phenomenon?
Well, I mean, it's kind of suggestive, given that their father died, that I mean, maybe he came back as a butterfly and he's following the car. I mean, that's possible. Or maybe he's influencing the flight of the butterfly from the barter realm.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to say for sure. I think it'd be hard to convince someone of it being 100% like this is what it is, because you could think, oh, okay, well, maybe it was just a normal butterfly and it just flew alongside the car. But surely to them, they probably didn't feel that way. They probably felt comforted in that it was meaningful.
Yeah.
And no one could say that's not the case either. You couldn't say there's no way that the father reincarnated as a butterfly. Mm-hmm. I would kind of wonder why as a butterfly. Mm-hmm. But
for me, combined with this real story plus the other story that we just spoke, right? Mm-hmm. We know that with our own experience and observation, of course, unless we have second eyes, we can see through. Otherwise, with our own experience to observe and witness this type of stories, a real story. For me, I make conclusion that probably for the battle, right, the beings after they pass away somehow because of some sort of attachment, they could go to any kind of forms first, and later on they will move on to their own path according to their own karmas. In this case, right, the father would, we can say, manifest as the butterfly to comfort his own children. And in the case of the monk who was born as the worms, or the layman who born at the jar, and so forth. Actually, the worms and the butterflies is understandable. So the point is that because of their attachment, because of their care and love, they manifest themselves in that way, temporarily. But for the layman who was dark, that is so his attachment so ingrained in his mind. That's why he's gets stuck there. But I think for the butterfly and the worms, they may move on to different lives according to their karmas. It makes sense, and Stephen, makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah. It's pure hard, right? It's Miss Kirsten. It's pure hard for people in the West to explain this kind of phenomena, right?
Yeah. I mean, of course, because of the Judeo-Christian idea of what happens to you after death, that it's much harder to get Westerners to buy into that, into the cycle of rebirth.
Okay. All right, thank you. Yeah, and Stephen, can you read number 7, please?
Does one who escapes from rebirth do so by the power of reasoning? He escapes both by reasoning and by wisdom, confidence, virtue, mindfulness, energy, and concentration. Is reasoning the same as wisdom? No. Animals have reasoning, but they do not have wisdom. I didn't quite fully understood this phrase.
Okay.
I know it has to do with the your mindset,
Mm. Yeah.
your thinking process.
Mhm. Why? Why is not doing so by the power of reasoning alone? Right. They should have the combination of wisdom, confidence, virtue, mindfulness, energy, and concentration.
Mhm.
Tell me, you know why? Why is that? The reasoning is not sufficient.
Reasoning is not sufficient because you have to, because just like they said, animals have reasoning. But that doesn't mean they make good decisions. They don't have wisdom. They don't have intelligence of what to do. So they can, so reasoning is like survival, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the dog, right? Uh, when we give them the food, right? They jump up right away, right? That the reasoning, right, for survival. Yeah. How about you? How about you, Miss Pearson? What do you think?
Well, I think it's, because animals will go after, after anything. If they're no, if you take a dog, for example, the dog goes that way because his nose takes him that way, that they're totally caught. They don't go, oh, well, if I go that way, then, maybe I could get into trouble. But if I go that way, I will go towards liberation. A dog's not going to do that. The dog's caught in his biological process and just follows that he doesn't weigh out his options and take all of his past experiences, put them together, and then try to plan a future or plan the next action. They're just 100% caught in their biology.
Yeah. Thank you. William, what do you think about this? He said that he escaped both by reasoning and by wisdom and so forth. Why these are
Well,
requirements?
maybe be kind of like if we were, if we were going to take a trip, we could decide to take the trip based on like reasoning. We could get to the point where we reason it out and we decide, okay, this is the trip I need to take. This is what's important. I clearly understand this. But reasoning won't get us to take the trip. Like we still have to use the other actions to take the trip. And along that trip, well, we're going to have to, make good decisions informed by wisdom. We're going to have to like be aware of our surroundings so that we avoid danger and so that we go the right direction. So I think reasoning alone would just be like deciding to set out on anything, but not actually accomplishing it.
So here he lists out the condition, right, for attaining enlightenment or attain nirvana or confidence, beside wisdom, confidence, virtue, mindfulness, energy, and concentration. What about blessing, merit, and so forth? What do you think, William?
Well, there certainly are states that people live in where they lack some of the more like foundational blessings. And this is discussed in Tibetan Buddhism quite a bit, where the sort of circumstances that surround oneself, like, you know, being born in a country that's central to the Dharma with all one's faculties, you know, with a sort of predilection to be interested in the Dharma during a time where the Dharma is still in the world, and not be like a slave to anyone that keeps you from being able to actually practice. So I think there are certain, it seems it's acknowledged that there are certain conditions someone can be born into that are obstructive to the practice. But I think, you know, like in the Lotus Sutra, where it begins with the Buddha emitting a light that touches every realm, it touches the deepest hell, it touches the highest heaven, and all, you know, all are one with Buddha. So I think in the ultimate sense, there are no ultimate obstructions. So no, to begin the way, you know, no previous blessings are necessarily needed. Like the Buddha, when he was in hell and he was struck by his son suffering, his friend suffering, being whipped by that devil. And so he like gave birth to compassion and asked the devil to stop whipping his friend. And so then the devil whipped him and he died and he went to heaven, and then used his supernatural powers to see what he had done. So like even in a hell realm, compassion can be born. So it seems that, you know, blessings certainly they seem helpful, like from a relative standpoint, but I don't think they're absolutely necessary from an absolute standpoint.
Yeah, but here probably for him, Narayana, he spoke in the views of the early views, right, or the Theravada traditions, not much with the Mahayana one. That's why he didn't mention about the blessing. But for us, we know that let's say if I don't have money, I have to walk from Louisville, Kentucky to Houston. Can you imagine how they will get here, right? But that's what we call blessing there, right? There's one example. It's convenient for me to buy the ticket to fly here and go back there, or even to fly the spaceship out of the Earth, right? It's need tremendous energy, and that kind of tremendous energy represents the blessing and the merit that a person need to have. It's not easy. Let's say if we really want to do meditation, but we are busy with all kinds of things, and I think you are the Israel teacher, right? You see many students in Vietnam, they're so smart, but somehow up to this moment, they don't have much blessing. That's why it's pure hard for them to handle their life materially and financially. Right? So in the sense, in our views, in the high position, that we need to what do you call practice generosity so that we can accumulate merit and blessing. At the same time, we need to do the practice of meditation to enrich our wisdom. This is like the birds has two wings. Like we walk on the two feet. That's what it's about. Okay, so time is up now. Yeah, let's just stop here. So I think this kind of conversation is very down to earth, right? Right, it is a practical sense for us, right? Yeah, later on we talk about some philosophical ideal principle, lofty principle, ideal later on. All right, so thank you. All right, so thank you. See you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good night, everyone.
See you.
Right.
Here.